Welcome, Bearcats. We are excited to have you here for our first senior class Zoom webinar that we've ever tried before. So we're excited that you guys were able to find us today, and we want to get a little bit of feedback from you kind of as we go through this meeting. There is a feature at the bottom that you can see. Some people have already accessed it. That is a question and answer. So under Q&A, if you do have a question, you can put that in there. We will be monitoring those questions throughout this webinar. And some of the questions that we feel are pertinent to all students, we will end up putting them on our senior FAQ page, which is on our school website. We want people to be aware that nothing, unfortunately, is really set in stone at this point. This is trying to get feedback from all of you. So we have an understanding as to how to make this the best last 2 months of your high school experience as we can possibly make it. We have a few people here in the room. So I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking, but along with me, we have Miss Seamers is here. We have Miss Blaine, we have Miss Johnson, and we have Miss Dickinson. So we'll all take little pieces of this presentation as we move through. So with that, I think we're going to start to move forward.
Hey cats, Seamers here, and one thing that we've been asking a lot from our families and our students is grace. And I wish you could have been in the room with us the last hour because I certainly felt like launching a webinar for lots of folks would be impossible, but now it's started, and when we're done, we'll know that it wasn't impossible. The past few weeks has had a lot of things that have felt impossible. And we're finding out as we work together, it actually gets done. And we realize that it wasn't impossible after all. So today really is about starting our journey together, working together to create the possible for you.
Great. So our agenda today, we just wanted to do kind of a quick welcome and check in. We're getting to that. We do want to explain a little bit about the high school and beyond plan because we know that there's some questions about that, and we want to make sure that we get you across that graduation line. That is important. We're going to talk a little bit about scholarships. Ms. Dickinson will talk a little bit about that. And then we do, like we said earlier, have a time for question and answers at the very end. But if you have questions on any particular slides as we go through, you can type those in as we go.
We wanted to check in with you, and so there will be a poll popping up on your screen. And so we just want to know what the hardest thing for you right now is. Figuring out a sleep schedule is the first one, and JJ is definitely struggling with that one. Working 20 plus hours per week, helping at home, either helping your siblings, meal prep, helping your parents, lack of connection with your friends, teachers, other people, making Zoom class sessions, and feeling like you're missing out on all things senior. So go ahead and take a second and tell us which one is the hardest for you, and we'll come back.
Hey Bearcat, Seamers again. And one of the things that we see in this poll, overwhelmingly, you guys are missing out on all things senior, which tells us we are making good timing on having this meeting. One of the other spots you can look for all things senior is that FAQ class of 2020 page on our website. So make sure you're checking that out. The other area that polled highest was a lack of connection with teachers and friends. And so make sure you're checking in with each other. Follow the monroe.covid.campaign on Instagram. There's some great things that are happening to increase and encourage connection. And I know our teachers love hearing from you. So make sure you're addressing those two things. All right, we're gonna have just a little fun before we get into this. It's time for a little Bearcat trivia. So there will be a poll coming up and we'll see how well you know Bearcat trivia. So you should see it now. That first question, Bearcats can leap between trees, true or false? I don't see any answers yet. There we go. Starting to see some of those come in. Second question, are Bearcats carnivores, herbivores, or omnivores? Third question, how big is the average Bearcat litter of young? 1, 2, 4, or 6? And finally, what's the name for a baby Bearcat? Getting some good answers in here. Give you a few more seconds to wrap up these questions and your answers. and I'll share the answers with you. All right, starting with number one. While I bet many of our high school Bearcats can leap between trees, I'm thinking of like Mac Pool right now, who does his awesome flips. He definitely could probably leap between trees. Or Heidi, she could probably leap between trees, or Bella. Bearcats actually cannot leap between trees. Okay, that one was false. Are Bearcats carnivores, herbivores, or omnivores? They are actually omnivores. They eat both meat and plant products. How big is the average Bearcat litter of young? 2 is the correct answer. 2 kiddos, a boy, a girl, we're done. No, 2, they're not boys and girls. They're actually called whelps. Those of you who answered whelp, 17%. A baby Bearcat is called a whelp. Nice work, Bearcats.
Okay, before we get into the high school and beyond plan, one other trivia question that we were talking about before we got started, and that is, as some of you might know, you are the 110th graduating class from Monroe High School. And the question would be, of those 110 graduating classes, which senior class has had the longest consecutive and most successful senior skip day in history? And that's going to be the class of 2020. You guys are doing great. Moving on to the high school and beyond plan. Some people are asking, as soon as we kind of have talked about it, why do we have to do this? This is one of the 3 state graduations requirements, right? You have to get 24 credits. You need to do your high school and beyond plan, and then you have to have your graduation pathway. And so the pathway is either passing the SBAC or finding another pathway that your counselor has worked with you on. So we needed to make sure that we still have everybody meet that high school and beyond plan. There are 3 lessons with slideshows. Those were in the email that we sent out earlier this week. And we will make sure that those are linked on the senior FAQ page. You have until May 15th to get that completed. If you need any sort of help, make sure that you check in with your senior English teacher if you're taking senior English here at the high school, or if you're a running start student, you can ask your counselor. We wanted to show you a little bit about what this high school and beyond plan is. Some of you remember this from previous years. It's in a thing called My School Data, and in those slideshows, it talks to you about how you log into your account. And we'll talk about how simple some of these different parts are. Most of the high school and beyond plan involves filling out these 3 boxes on the first page of your My School Data piece. Lesson 1, if you might have already done that, you'll notice that lesson 1 will take you somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. It's really about logging in, getting familiar with the site, and I think you have to write a total of 2 sentences. So you should be able to do that in about 5 to 10 minutes. The next one, that green box, what can I become? That one is going to deal with about 20 or 30 minutes is our estimate as to how long that will take. It involves doing a career pathway choice that you have to go in and look at. And again, those directions are on those lessons. And then the very last one is, how will I become that? This is the one that's going to take a little bit more time. You do need to get through this blue box as well as these next couple of slides that we're going to show you. So you'll need to fill in these boxes that involve internships, work experience, and volunteer activities. You have to do extracurricular activities and athletics, and then leadership, awards, and honors. So you need to fill in all 3 of those. Also, we'll need to fill in these 6 boxes. This deals with your personalized pathway. A key point for any of you who did not pass the SBAC and are using an alternate pathway, check with your counselor, because you do need to make sure that this pathway matches what we're using for your graduation pathway. So if you took the Armed Forces test, the ASVAB, then you need these pages here to talk about potential of going into the military or a career that is supported by the military. If you're using snow isle classes for your pathway, then you need to mention snow isle and what you've learned at snow isle within these boxes. So it's very important. Even if you passed the SBAC, you have to fill out all 6. But if you did not pass the SBAC, you need to make sure that these boxes match and beyond plan.
So this is Seamers. A couple questions came in specifically about high school and beyond plan that we want to make sure we answer before we move forward. Alex Ritzy asks, I have completed my high school and beyond plan, but I have not been able to get confirmation. It has been marked as complete. How do I go about getting this confirmation?
So that will be done again, we're waiting until everybody gets their things in May 15th. It will depend. So if you are in a senior English class, that will get marked off by your senior English teacher. If you are a running start student, then it will get filled out by your counselor. So they will go in and make sure that you have all of those parts, and then it will get marked off in Skyward as complete.
Another question that got asked specifically about high school and beyond plan is, how do you know if you've done it correctly?
And that, again, you would be getting that feedback either from your senior English teacher or from your counselor, again, if you are a running start student.
One last question about high school and beyond plan that came in from you asked, didn't we do this in 9th grade?
The answer is yes. The state requires that you do different components. Some of the components you have to do every year. You actually did this the first time, should have been in 8th grade. They start it in the end of middle school, and then you do it over again each year. So you keep going through. Some of these things some of these boxes might be filled, and you can just put in any additions that you have in your senior year. And then there are some pieces that are brand new, like the experiences and essentially the building of the resume. You did not have to do that last year. Dickinson is going to talk a little bit about our scholarship money.
Hey Bearcats, we're looking forward to celebrating all of your accomplishments. So I would really appreciate it if you could go to the Career Center website and submit all of the scholarships that you've received so far. Also be sure to take a look if you are looking for more scholarships to apply for. They're updated regularly. Please email me if you have any questions.
Hey, Ms. Dickinson, we got a question that I think you just answered, but how will they know? Will there be more scholarship information sent out or possible?
There's always scholarship information updated on the Career Center website daily. So take a look as regularly as you can to see the new information that's put out.
Thanks, Ms. Dickinson.
Okay, so we want to make sure that people are aware, because I know that graduation is a big talking point, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of those senior celebrations at the end of the year. But the most important thing is that we get you on the pathway to get your diploma. And so we want to make sure that you are following the expectations of the school and the district kind of as we move forward. So the big things that we've talked about with our staff, with our families, and with our students in our communications is that we expect students to be flexible, and we expect people to continue to try their best. Those are the two expectations we have, is to just keep trying. So you are in credit-bearing classes. Classes are continuing, they are credit-bearing. So you do need to make sure that you continue to do the work for those classes. It is just like if this health crisis was not going on and you were coming to school every day, the expectation would be that you continue to do your work. Okay. And every year we have some seniors who don't always do that in the months of April and May. So don't be one of those. Make sure you are continuing with your work. Your teachers will be checking in with you, and we need to make sure that you keep earning those credits. Engagement, what does that look like now? We really want you to focus in on those 2-week unit plans that have been sent out. Teachers talked about those in their Zooms this week. You can get those on our website. That's the work that is expected of our students, is to do the assignments that are on those 2-week unit plans. If you're having trouble, having trouble with an individual class, reach out to that teacher first of all. If you're having trouble outside of the classroom, make sure that you take advantage of your counselors who are here to help. You can work with administration. And we also, as a district, have a behavioral health support team that are always willing to help out, particularly maybe if your family has found itself in a situation you weren't anticipating in, and maybe your family needs a little bit of extra support. We can get that for you. So make sure that you let us know what you need.
Getting into the nuts and bolts of all things senior, we want to make sure that we're starting with the important stuff. Lots of you have been asking about caps and gowns. Are we still going to get them? When do we get them? Invitations, products, all those things. So National Achiever is the organization that helps us with all of that. So what we know now, as of earlier this week, approximately 270 of our 376 graduating seniors have actually completed their order and paid online. So that means about 100 of you have not yet. So if you have not taken care of your order or paid, you need to do so online. And that information is shared on the senior class FAQ page, which is on our website. If you go to the Monroe High School website and you click on the educational resources tab, the FAQ is over in the left-hand bar there for you to access that. Your order and payment is due by May 1st. And we will be actually organizing a distribution of those products, caps and gowns, etc., for Friday, May 8th. So right now we want you to hold that date. We will be doing a staggered pickup by Alpha, your last name, and that information will come out as we get closer to May 8th as well. At this time, we're not going to be doing any money exchanges that day, so you need to pay online. That being said, if you're a student who needs some financial support in getting those products and caps and gowns and invitations, please, please, please reach out to your counselor or administrator or Miss Gallick in the finance office via email, and we'll make sure you get the support that you need to make sure that remains memorable for you. Okay, so I see a question that just popped in. Thank you, Frankie. Do we still need caps and gowns? Well, we're going to talk about graduation here in a few minutes. I know many families have emailed me directly and said, we want our caps and gowns so we can get pictures of our seniors in their caps and gowns. So yeah, hold tight for that one. But yeah, I would say you definitely need your caps and gowns.
Another question we've been seeing a lot is the last day of school. So currently we are planning for your last day to be June 5th. That is our assumption. However, obviously things are a little bit more in flux this year. So every year for every senior class, we have to ask the state if it's okay that they end their year a little early at the time of graduation. This year, the state has not made a blanket statement of, yes, you can do that. They are still deciding whether or not, because of the missed time that school seniors have had, or all students have had, whether or not they're going to ask all students to continue until the last day for their district, in this case, June 19th. So again, if the decision is left at the local level, we believe that we will be ending June 5th. If the state says that class has to go till June 19th, then we would continue until June 19th. So there's not an answer that has been finalized, but we just want to make sure that you are aware.
Okay, guys, prom. A lot of you are having questions about prom, and so we wanted to give you an update as to what we are thinking. Apparently, I need to talk louder. Is that better? Great. A few ideas is that we've talked about doing prom later in the summer. It all really depends on what the governor of the state decides about how many people can assemble at once. We've talked about doing a virtual prom. We've talked about doing a prom during a weekday in the summer. We've talked about having senior dinner and prom together. So we have lots of ideas. We're just trying to wait for more guidance from the state before we make an actual plan. If you have questions, answer. And it's not going to be at Mac's house.
So all things senior, before we start talking about the different events that normally shape a senior experience at the end of the year, we want to make sure that you kind of also pay attention. All events are going to depend on several factors that must hold true for us to move forward. The following three statements are going to anchor our decision-making based on state and local guidelines. So one is, if the stay-at-home order is lifted in the state of Washington, obviously if we're still at a stay-home order, that's going to have an impact on our events. If there are bans on large group gatherings that would limit our ability to hold an event, that will also impact what we can or cannot do. And thirdly, as a district, we will determine if we can meet the high standards for health and safety during any event. So the number one thing that we're going to say is, if we don't believe that we can keep you healthy and safe through an event, then we will have to alter that event.
All right, one thing that we are going to do next, you can see the big list there of kind of all things senior that we tried to capture that happened historically for Monroe students. So what we're going to talk about next is we're going to talk through what historically happens, and what we want you to know, just like Mr. Crow said earlier, nothing is set in stone right now. We want to make this as close as possible as we can to what it normally looks like. But we recognize that that's going to look really different, just like he shared those kind of 3 pieces for us to move forward. So one of the things to be aware of is that early next week, you're going to be getting a survey. We want to know specifically what you want for sure to happen. So we might have an overwhelming 90% say, yes, we want to have prom. Guess what? We will do something to figure out some version of prom then. It might not be in person, but something will happen. We might have 90% say, hey, we really want to come up with some version of an elementary walkthrough. Awesome. We're going to do our best to honor that. So watch your emails next week, because that survey will be coming out, and that will be the first start of filtering down to what it is we're going to do, kind of all things senior. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about spring sports and activities. Right now, we're really thinking pretty broadly. I've been talking with Mr. Lowen, and there is a possibility, depending on if some things get lifted on sizes, that we could do a virtual Our Town production. And that's a really exciting thing to think about for all of our students who are involved in theater. Additionally, we've been talking to Mr. Hyde and Miss Ray about those end of season concerts and how we could create something like that experience for our seniors. In terms of sports, if you don't know, tonight we are participating in Be the Light Washington. At 8:20, we will be turning on our stadium lights for our baseball, softball, and football facilities. And while this is to honor all seniors, we're really holding space for our senior student athletes who are missing out, for some of them, on their final competitive season. So there's lots of things that are still in the works. I know downtown we saw some posters hung, some banners hung, but those things are still kind of a work in progress. Next is Senior Awards Night. Historically, Senior Awards Night and the scholarships presentation occur together, and it makes for a really long night. We hear that feedback. So this year we've decided to separate those 2 things. Mrs. Dickinson is taking point on Senior Awards Night, and so we've already met and started narrowing that down. We are hoping to create a virtual option. We are creating a virtual option, not hoping. We know for sure we'll create a virtual option of that, unless we can have you here on campus in person, which we believe is probably going to be highly doubtful at that point in time. So we will be doing a virtual version of Senior Awards Night, and that includes athletic awards, it includes honor cords, it includes AP acknowledgement, all sorts of things, sealed by literacy. We recognize our outstanding seniors that night, and we also choose an award called the Heart of the Bearcat. So some fun, cool things happen with Senior Awards Night, so we definitely have that as a piece. Ms. Dickinson, you look like you want to say something else standing in this space. Go ahead.
I just want to say we're going to continue to work with the Monroe Public School Foundation to make sure that the STAIR scholarships get out to our students.
Yeah, so if you didn't hear Ms. Dickinson, that was the next bullet I was going to talk about, scholarships. So we are working with the amazing Sue Skillen and Jen Poole over with the Monroe Public Schools Foundation, and we will be supporting them as they navigate what that traditional scholarship presentation looks like for our students. So we are for sure going to be doing some things in those top 3 bullets. I'm going to hand it off to Miss Blaine, Senior Class Advisor Extraordinaire. I can hear you clapping already for her. Good work, Bearcats. She's phenomenal. And I do want to share that she's right there with you as we think about having to transition to a different version of all things senior. Her heart's with you, and she's going to make sure that this is awesome too. So she's going to talk about the next couple of things.
Hello. For those of you guys that don't realize, I have been the senior class advisor for 14 years. And so I'm pretty steeped in some of these traditions, and my heart's breaking along with you guys. For senior dinner, we usually have the dinner and some entertainment in the form of the hypnotist. Unfortunately, I don't think we'd be able to do the hypnotist even if we were back in the building, simply because everybody has to get way too close in that performance than we would probably be allowed to do. So if you guys are interested in entertainment dinner or the senior slideshow is probably something we could have a lot of fun with. I'm looking for probably input on that, and perhaps student involvement in making senior slideshow a very interesting thing. But we can get around this, and we can figure out some fun stuff if dinner and slideshow are up there on your priority list. So when you get that survey next week. Make sure that if this is something that's interesting to you, you let us know. And now we're moving on to Ms. Johnson.
All right, so for senior sunset, usually that takes place after senior dinner. Everyone walks out to the stadium and we watch the sunset together. People take pictures. It's really just one last moment to have together the night before the moving up assembly. Elementary walkthroughs happen the last day, which this year would have been June 5th on the current schedule. And you would essentially go to the elementary school that you went to, and you would wear your gown, and the kids at the elementary school would be there to cheer you on and get to hang out with them. Depending on the school, you do recess with them, you do activities with them, you'll go to their rooms and talk to them about what it's like to be in high school. They love that time, and they love the opportunity to see what they consider really large people in their small space. And it's always a really good time and a lot of fun for everyone. The moving up assembly, if you've been here more than this year, you've attended a moving up assembly. And so this is the chance where all classes move from one grade to another. The underclassmen move from one section of their bleachers to the next section. The seniors are on the floor, and then we spend time honoring the seniors and creating closure for their time at the high school as well as for other people. So there's a staff speaker, choir performs, the trash can band performs. There's a student speaker who's usually the salutatorian. There's a slideshow. I don't think I'm missing anything. That sounds about right. And then, and yeah, that's it of mine. Oh, sorry. And then there's serpentine after the moving up assembly, where we go out to the football field and make a gigantic oval, and we take time in silence to say goodbye to each other, and move on and cry.
And then the day after that is graduation day, which we start with our rehearsal here at school, and then you guys would all be on buses heading to Everett and Angel of the Winds Arena for graduation. But part of that trip is its own senior tradition, and that is as you're driving along Frylands, people from the community have a tendency to pack that street along with a bunch of parents, and it's basically a parade on your way to the arena. And so we're curious if that is something that is important to you, to have something like a parade where you're able to come through and be recognized in that particular way. Obviously, graduation, you've seen if you've spent any time on social media that there's a ton of different options that different school districts are looking at, and we are looking at a variety of things as well. Currently, for all of these things, we want to make sure people are aware that we're moving forward with, we have not canceled graduation date of June 6th at Angel of the Winds yet, but we are kind of making the assumption that that is unlikely that the state will allow large gatherings by that point. So that's why we're trying to make sure that we have alternate plans. And that's part of the survey that we send out next week, is we will talk about some of the different potential graduation possibilities that are out there. And we want to hear from you as to what is important for you in regards to graduation. Grad night is the celebration after graduation. Officially, that is not a school event. That is run by parents and run through our booster program, run through Bearcat Pride, and parents help out with that grad night. So that is not a school event. We do not have anything to do with that. We do not collect the money for that. We don't have anything to do with grad night. So I know that those parents are still working hard on figuring out what the different options are. And as we get information, we will make sure that that information gets out to you. And then finally, we have had some questions about yearbooks and whether or not those will still happen. And the answer is absolutely. That yearbook class was working very hard all the way up until the day that we left on March 12th. And since then, Ms. Hudson has been working extremely hard by herself, finishing off a lot of the parts of the book. So yearbooks will still be distributed. We will need to find a distribution plan for yearbooks as to how that works. And that will, again, depend a lot upon if we're in a stay-at-home order, if what kind of bans we have, whatever's going on from the state, that'll determine how we do yearbook distribution. But yes, there is still going to be a yearbook. It will be just as fantastic as all previous yearbooks that we've had. So if you have not purchased one, I've seen that question come up a few times. Those will again be on sale towards the end of May. Again, towards the end of May, we will put those back on sale again. So you cannot purchase one right now, but there will be plenty of time to put in purchases for a yearbook if that is something you are looking for.
Some other questions coming in kind of as we wrap up, moving on to our Q&A part, which you've been asking them as we go. So question is this going to be posted? Yes, this webinar recording will be posted. It'll be on the class of 2020 FAQ page. So that's where you will see that. Just want to acknowledge a lot of you out there are talking about how hard it's going to be, because part of this experience is about being connected with each other, and without having that component, it feels hard to have these or think through them. We want to acknowledge that. We're right there with you. You're right, this isn't the same, and it's not going to be the same. And I think if we did nothing, that would be even more of a disservice to you and the time that you've put in as students in Monroe. And so we are going to be doing things, and you get to, the beauty of that is that you get to choose what you want to participate in and be involved in and help organize and all of that. So you get to decide how much or how little it is you want to do to participate. Senior checkout day. Yes, there will be a senior checkout day this year. More information is coming for that. With that about senior checkout days to get your diplomas. That's a huge piece, right? So fees and fines and things like that. Fees and fines can be paid. I thought those could be paid online through Family Access. So if you need to pay a fee or a fine, you can use your Family Access account and go on and take care of those fees and fines there.
And if you have further questions about fines or any of those things, make sure that you email Miss Gallick. She is working and she will get back to you with answers about fines.
Yeah. And another thing to acknowledge is this: we recognize many of you have picked up Chromebooks, or you've had to check out textbooks as you're working at home on your continuous learning. That will be part of your senior checkout process. So to get your diploma, if you've checked out a Chromebook, you will have to return that Chromebook to get that diploma. Same with textbooks. If you checked out a textbook, you will have to return that. That being said, right now, we're all under a stay home, stay healthy order. So those plans for returning those items will be coming as we get more information from the governor and a plan from our district level administration as to what that needs to look like. And looking through questions, I think that's most of it. We'll be able to say goodbye to teachers.
Their resume.
I'm looking. I don't see the resume one. You want to answer it? You want to ask it and we can answer it?
Can you go back into the high school?
One of the questions we had was about high school and beyond plan and how you would get to the resume section in My School Data and where to put it.
Forward one. So the resume pieces are here under that experiences. So if you fill in all of these boxes, that'll be the kind of equivalent of your resume. So that includes any internships, work experience, volunteer activities that you've done, all of the extracurricular activities and athletics that you have participated in while in high school, and any leadership awards and honors that you have done. So by filling in all of these boxes, we count that as meeting the state's requirement for a resume.
Yeah, so a couple other questions. One of the questions that we've been getting asked is, can't we just wait until bans are lifted? Right now, we have no indication as to when large groups will be able to gather. Everything we're hearing from both the state and federal level, as you can see on the news as well, is that there will be a staggered, quote, reopening of things. And so could we wait? Yes, we could wait, but there's a likelihood that there might not be an opportunity later this summer to have something, or August. And so we want to make sure that we're honoring things now. What we can commit to you is this: if we get that opportunity to do this live with everyone in person, we'll do everything we can to make that happen. That's what we can commit to you. Again, anything checkout or turning books in or questions like that, those processes and systems will be communicated out when we get to that point. Right now, we're not doing any pickup of things, and we're not doing any drop off of things outside of Chromebooks to get students access to learning. Next senior webinar. That's a great question. probably a couple of weeks. We'll come back together after we get the information from the survey that we're going to post next week for you. We'll be able to capture what it is most important to you, and we'll share that out with this group. We'll also be looking for folks at that time who want to help be a part of coordinating and organizing this work. This is your experience. We're here to support you as you create your opportunities. And so our next webinar will be after we've been able to capture that information, put it together, and then be ready to share that back out. So we're just kind of peeking through some other questions that are here. How do we know if we owe anything? Isn't that in family access fees and fines? How do we know if we owe anything is a question that's gotten asked. That's it, that you can see that in family access. And then again, with graduation, I see a question out there is for graduation. There's really 3 key things that Mr. Crow talked about and that the state talks about. To graduate, number 1, we're looking at credits. Number 2, we're looking at your pathway, which is your math and English language arts assessment piece. And number 3 is that high school and beyond plan piece. That being said, many of you are currently enrolled in classes that are credit bearing. If you choose to disengage at this point with 8 weeks left, those credits will be impacted and that piece will be impacted. So make sure that you're continuing to engage. Let's see. Oh, good. That's a great question. Just saw one pop in about, do we know if it is pass fail yet? Mr. Crow, you want to touch on that one?
An answer has not been made 100%. We will say that it very much looks like we will be having grades. It is very, very unlikely that we are going to go to a pass fail system.
You cut out.
Sorry, we were having some sound issues there. It is very unlikely in this district that we will be going to a pass fail system. So you will be having grades for your classes.
Just peeking through. What about, oh, so this question, what about classes that were pass fail and relied on attendance, like academic support?
There is going to be some stuff sent out for academic support that those students will be expected to do. So those assignments should be coming out shortly. They're not going to be a lot, but there will be a little bit. The only one that would really be a true pass fail only class was if you were a TA. And yes, for those things, we will be continuing to move forward with a pass fail just as we did before.
This just in from Miss Myers. Y'all know Miss Myers is our office manager, who also one person who keeps this building running. Without her, it probably wouldn't be standing. She just shared that Miss Hudson in the counseling office is in the process of running senior checkout information sheets. So seniors will be able to see what they have outstanding and what they owe. And so as soon as those are available, those will be shared with you. Thank you, Miss Myers. I think
if you continue to put things in this chat, we'll monitor for a little bit. We are, again, trying to take as many of the answers as possible, and we'll move some of those over to the senior FAQ sheet. But with that, I believe our presentation today is complete. Thanks very much for spending some time with us. We will let you know when we're going to have the next one of these webinars for the senior class. Thanks, everybody.
can we print our Q&A?